I haven't seen this video yet. I'm going to be reacting off the cuff and just give me a long video. And I suspect it's going to get through to you what the difference between methodological behaviorism, as what K9T is pushing, and radical behaviorism, which is what I'm pushing, because she has no idea about Skinner. Let's get into this. Again, I haven't heard it before. I'm doing this off the cuff.
How's it going, Critter Family? Hope you all are doing well. Today we are going over a video by Robert Hines, the radical behaviorist Robert Hines. K9 Tay, the Shiba Way, Taylor Wachowski, time to expose your lies and ignorance, have fun doing damage control. This is the name of his video. We are looking at my website. He is looking at my website. Of course, I have no problem with that. That's why I have the website there, where anybody can look at it and learn what they want to learn and move on with what they don't want to.
It's interesting that she says they can learn what they want to learn. The problem is, what she's got all blasted all over her website is not Skinner. It's methodological behaviorism under Edward Thorndike. And she doesn't realize that because she's never sat down and read a book about psychology. But yet she wants to attack people, and she wants to gather her little flock to attack me.
But he apparently is obsessed with me. He likes to go after me a lot. I don't know why, because
Obsessed with you? I'm not obsessed with you. How insecure do you have to be when you make that claim? You took the first shot at me. You did a reaction video to me. You didn't like my response. So I reacted back to you. I had people from your site coming at me, and I love that. I don't care if people come at me because you're so weak. That's the problem. You have no knowledge to come back to me with. And we're going to get into this video because I'm pretty sure I remember this video and all of the bullshit that's on our website.
I covered him in maybe one or two videos.
Yeah, you drew first blood. I'm going to draw last, right?
And so he is just hell bent on, I guess, I don't know.
I'm hell bent. I don't go hell bent. You expose yourself.
Exposing me. I don't know. But we're just going to go ahead and get into it. And somebody asked me to look at this video, so we're going to see what he has to say.
Taylor Wachowski, I never thought I had to bring your name up again, but one of your clients came over and attacked me on my own page because of the reaction video I did to you. And he came at me with full knowledge, admitted he never read Skinner, which means that you never read Skinner either. Welcome to the...
Okay, first of all, I don't condone any of my clients going and doing anything like that. So first off, I would like to say I am sorry that that happened. That is under...
Apology not accepted, Taylor. That was the purpose of doing the videos. That was the purpose of coming at me the first time around. You did my video about positive reinforcement. You have no idea what positive reinforcement and negative reinforcement is, and yet you keep coming. You clearly have not read Skinner. You clearly have not read any kind of Carl Jung. You clearly haven't read any Freud, but yet you want to come off as an expert. And it shows on your website that you haven't got a goddamn clue about what you're talking about. Even your definitions are wrong.
no knowledge of my own. I do not condone, I do not wish, I don't ask, I don't want anybody to do anything of that.
I read the comments in from your followers, and you know what? I consider the source. You are the source of those comments. I love when people gang up because you can't come at me alone. You need your little followers. You need your little army to come at me. That's the reality.
Especially not a previous client of mine. So I don't know who this client is that did that. I don't know what they said to you. That is of their own
Sure you do. You know exactly who it was.
free will. I've never asked anybody to ever go after anybody, even with as nasty comments as I receive, and you know, in a couple of instances, even death wishes. I will never ask anybody to go and
You don't need to ask. It's the outcome of your videos. You want your followers to come after me. That's the reality. But you know what? Again, I don't care. You don't scare me. I've got the knowledge. You do not. But let's get into this video and see what she's got to say.
attack anybody. So that was not on my of my doing.
You're pulling a Zach George. Dog Daddy gets attacked. And Zach washes his hands of it. You know what? It wasn't me that caused it. Yeah, it was.
And I apologize for that happening. You know, but I mean, what other people do is
Apology not accepted. I could care less of what you think about me. That's the reality.
out of my control. Secondly, just because he hasn't read Skinner does not mean that I have not read Skinner.
Just because he hasn't read Skinner. Skinner put out 21 books and 180 odd papers in his career. How many have you read? Give me a list of books that you've read. Give me a list of papers that you've read because you clearly, it shows in your website. What you're defining as positive reinforcement is not positive reinforcement. What you're defining as negative reinforcement and operant conditioning is not right.
And I understand Skinner and B.F.
You don't understand Skinner. You haven't read a book from Skinner, and it clearly shows on your website. Let's get into this video. Come on.
B.F Skinner is not the one all be all of dog training.
B.F Skinner was never a dog trainer. B.F Skinner was all about behavior and understanding behavior. Okay? You're pushing methodological behaviorism under Edward Thorndike, and you have no idea because it removes the head off the dog. All you're focused on is behavior. I focus on everything behind the behavior. You focus on objective. I focus on subjective. It's the dog's past. Everything has to be taken into account, but you don't. And you clearly showed on your own video, you told people that it could take you up to 2 years, over 2 years, to work a dog's reactivity. You have a dog that's scared on a leash. Why the hell would it take 2 years to help that dog overcome reactivity? It's all about the money, right? I'm not making money at this. You are. You've got something to lose. I don't.
Yes, he developed the 4 quadrants and the operant conditioning of dog.
Skinner did not develop the 4 quadrants of operant conditioning. Skinner openly opposed punishment. This is the biggest lie there is. This is all Edward Thorndike and methodological behaviorism. And she doesn't understand that because she's never actually sat down and tried to understand Skinner. People don't understand Skinner. She says, well, Skinner is not the do-all of operant conditioning. Skinner is the father of operant conditioning. And every goddamn trainer out there blames B.F. Skinner for the quadrants of dog training. Skinner developed positive and negative reinforcement, yes, but punishment was not on his menu. He openly opposed punishment, and there's a reason for it because once you understand and define the word behavior, then punishment is ineffective. And Taylor doesn't realize, because she has never read Skinner, how much punishment she applies to these dogs. That's the reality.
Dog training, but that's not. Just because you haven't read him doesn't mean you can't learn from. You learn the methods, but it's he's.
There's no method to Skinner. Skinner is all about understanding psychology. It's understanding subjective. All you're focused on personally is subjective. All you care about is trying to fix behaviors. You see a broken dog. I see a broken human behind a dog.
Not the god of dog training.
Skinner was never the god of anything. Skinner, for all he gave to the world, he didn't even consider himself an expert, but yet we got a bunch of people out there that can't even define the fucking word behavior, like Canine Tay, who's claiming to be an expert. And all she is about money.
Okay, so I have read Skinner. I have understood.
Which books have you read, Taylor? Which books have you read? Which papers have you read? Because if you had sat down and read and just one book about behaviorism is a great book, you'll understand that Skinner openly opposed punishment. And if Skinner himself openly opposed punishment, then who created the quadrants of dog training? It's not a question you can answer, is it? You don't want to answer it because once you answer that fucking question, then your whole career goes in the garbage.
Some of Skinner, in pieces, and bits and
In pieces, yes, bits and pieces. You get bits and pieces. You learned all about Skinner. If you would actually sit down and read Skinner, you would understand that everything you learned was bullshit.
pieces, just like with my schooling, which he's going to talk about here.
Your schooling is wrong. You've been taught the wrong things. That is reality. But you don't want to accept it. Why don't you want to accept it? Because once you accept that you've been taught wrong, then you understand that there's no money in training dogs. I don't train dogs. I work with dogs behaviorally, and behavior has to come with understanding, not application. Page of knowledge. Welcome to the page of ignorance. Welcome to the page of lies and actuality.
Welcome to the page of training methods, is what it is.
You see, one of Taylor's big mistakes is that she believes that she can train a dog to behave. You cannot. You cannot train a dog to behave. You need to understand the behaviors. What dog trainers are supposed to be doing is teaching abnormal behaviors in dogs, not focusing on behaviors as a result of an emotion or an instinct. That's the reality. That's what she doesn't get.
Trainers in education under training and methods. I never called it the page of knowledge. I just call it the page of training methods so you can understand the different types of methods that are being used.
I'm going to prove to you that Taylor Kowalkowski couldn't find her own ass with a map when it comes to dog training and behavior. Okay? Let's get into this. First of all, I know about the Animal Behavior College. I've talked to many, many trainers from the Animal Behavior College, and I proved to them what you learned at the Animal Behavior College was actually incorrect. And you're not.
Says who? Says what is your background? What is your educational background that you can prove the animal?
30 years in psychology, sweetheart. Okay, if I had my time back, I would have gone for a PhD in psychology. I've read Skinner. I've read Jung. I've lived it. Okay? You have no idea what Skinner was saying in his books. I urge you just to sit down and read one book, but you won't because you're too scared to. Because once you do, then you're fully admitted that you were wrong. Once you understand what Skinner was saying, there's no making money off of it because there's no training dogs. That's the reality. There's money in dog training because dog trainers want to train about behaviors. That's the reality. But the reality is you cannot train a dog to behave. You can train a dog for abnormal things. A dog will sit, lay down, and roll over. The abnormal part of it comes in when you try to teach them to do it on command. Okay? This is what Pigeon or Skinner called pigeon superstition. And again, you don't even understand what that word is, do you?
Behavior college is incorrect. Now I admit, animal behavior college may have their own, may not be the best and have their own problems and stuff, just like everybody does. Just like the Karen Pryor Academy is not perfect.
Karen Pryor, I love when people bring up that word. You know, she was one of the pioneers in dolphin training. The problem is, you don't realize that dolphins train the people to give them free fucking fish.
Nobody else is perfect. Um, Jean Donaldson is not perfect. I'm sure.
You're damn right she isn't. The problem is the whole system was built to make money. That's all it is. It doesn't care about the dog. It doesn't care about the animal. It doesn't care about operant conditioning. It doesn't care about what operant conditioning is. It doesn't care what positive reinforcement is. And I haven't talked to one trainer yet, and even Taylor Wilkowski. I've asked her several times to define the word behavior. She cannot. She will not, because once you define what a behavior is and describe what it is, then you throw your own career in the garbage. That's the reality, and that is not efficient.
Even Victoria Stilwell is not perfect. Nobody is perfect.
I guarantee you one thing: I respect Victoria Stilwell more than anybody else because she got a set of balls on her. She's not afraid of dogs, and I'll give her that one.
Um, but what does that have to do with anything? Nobody is perfect.
Not learning skin. It's not about being perfect. It's about the quest for knowledge. Philosophy is a quest for knowledge. B.F. Skinner, the opening line of B.F. Skinner's book about behaviorism, he stated clearly that behaviorism is not the science of human behavior, it's the philosophy of that science. And what is philosophy but a quest for knowledge? What is that quest for knowledge, Taylor? It's about reading, it's about understanding, and it's something that you will not do. You will not invest 5 minutes to open a fucking dictionary to define the word behavior for the sake of the dog. But yet here you are trying to crucify me, and you're trying to get your little army together to get pissed off at me. I love this. I thrive on this crap, Taylor. That's what you don't seem to realize. In actuality, you're learning Conrad Most, who was the father of Switzerland's IGP dog training, the sport of obedience, tracking, and protection. Okay? In 2015, she was taught three main types of training. Positive reinforcement training. There's no such thing as a positive reinforcement trainer, ladies and gentlemen. If you sit down and read Conrad Most, Training Dogs, the book, you would understand that that book is the very basis for everything dog training today.
Then how is it that I'm a positive reinforcement trainer who has so much success?
So much success. Define success, Taylor. Define what you consider success. I consider success as a dog running around off leash in a dog park. That's what I consider success. Dog trainers have a strange definition of success. Dogs under control of management, dogs that are still scared. Taking 2 years to get a dog over behavioral issues or fear, that's crazy. Okay? Most times they can get a dog running off leash in a few hours in a dog park. And most of these dogs that I work with, they were last chance. I was their last chance. Taylor, that's what you don't seem to realize. I'm not using behaviorism, I'm applying the understanding of the behavior.
And almost 11 years going on training publicly, professionally. How is it that positive reinforcement, my own title, that I'm a force...
The problem is you're calling yourself a positive reinforcement trainer when you're in reality a primary inducement trainer. Okay? You're trying to get a dog to do something for a piece of food. That's called an inducement. That's not primary positive reinforcement. If you would sit down and read about behaviorism, one fucking book, just a summation of one book. It's only 35 pages, Taylor. I beg of you to read this damn book. I'll even provide you with a link, but you don't want to. Because you don't want to learn. There's no money in learning. That's the reality. And that scares the crap out of people like you. If you can't make money in dog training, you're finished. And once you understand and define what a behavior is and what causes behaviors, you throw your career in the garbage. I understand it's a hard thing to do, Taylor. Sitting down and reading 35 pages is a difficult thing to do because it's going to change your mind and you're going to understand once you read those 35 pages that you were flat out lying to people.
Or a positive reinforcement trainer. How is it that that does not exist?
Positive reinforcement is not a tool, it's not a technique. Positive reinforcement in reality, if you would sit down and read Skinner, is all about survival of the animal and the fittest. It is not a tool you wield. You don't find it in a frickin' bottom of a bag of treats. That's the reality. It's the things that you're doing to try to stay alive. You need food, you need water, you need shelter. That's the basics for animal survival. You need sex and procreation. That's necessary for the survival of the species. This is what operant conditioning is. Dog training creates expectation. Operant conditioning creates anticipation. And you don't seem to understand that.
There are the three types of trainings here. trainers here, positive reinforcement, balance training, compulsion training, each one kind of goes into different.
What is compulsion based training? If you'd sit down and read Conrad Most, you would understand exactly where dog training came from. What are the real quadrants of dog training, Taylor? If you'd sit down and read a book, you'd understand. It's primary and secondary inducements and primary and secondary compulsive inducements. That's your real quadrants of dog training. You are a positive or primary inducement trainer, not a positive reinforcement trainer. That's the biggest lie. You've sold yourself a lie. That's the reality. And you don't want to admit it because there's no money in it. Once you admit it, there's no money in it. I'm not a rich man. I'm not making shit off this. You are. You've got something to lose. I do not. I'm only a messenger. That's it.
Different quadrants that they choose to follow.
Again, there are no quadrants. You keep blaming Skinner for the quadrants of dog training. That's the very issue. Skinner openly opposed punishment. So if Skinner openly opposed punishment, where did the positive and negative punishment quadrants come from? No trainer wants to answer that question. And it's funny. Why don't they want to answer the question? Because once they do, they screw themselves. They're done. They're finished.
For positive reinforcement trainers, go figure, we follow positive reinforcement. And possibly,
the fact that you're saying that you're a positive reinforcement trainer tells me point blank you can't even define the word positive reinforcement. You don't even know what it is.
Negative punishment. Negative punishment means to remove something the dog likes. So, for example,
again, Skinner himself, you're blaming Skinner for the creation of the quadrants of dog training, but the man openly opposed punishment. There was only positive and negative reinforcement. The application of negative reinforcement is what Skinner called punishment. That is the attempt to remove a behavior from a bloody repertoire, and it doesn't work. All you do is suppress it.
A trainer of positive reinforcement is I use treats, I use toys, I use petting, I use whatever the dog finds.
And again, if you would sit down and read Conrad Most, that is by definition primary inducement. Food, toys, affection, this is all primary inducements, not positive reinforcements. What you're doing, you're creating this tiny world of operant conditioning for the dog to operantly condition themselves to. And that's not fair. If you did that to a human child, you'd screw them up for life. But that's what's happening.
To be reinforcing. Reinforcing means to increase a behavior. So I find what the dog finds rewarding to...
No, it doesn't. Trainers declare that punishment works. That punishment is reinforcing. Punishment is the reverse of reinforcing. Skinner stated that point blank in the book about behaviorism. Punishment doesn't reinforce anything. It suppresses. It creates weakness. It creates fear. That's all it does. And when you apply punishment, and Taylor Bukowski is punishing dogs in ways you can't even understand. That's the reality. She can't understand it. Because you're trying to remove a behavior from a bloody repertoire, and it doesn't work. That is called suppression. You're trying to suppress bad behaviors. That's all you're doing. Because you can't define the word behavior.
Increase that behavior, and I train them that way. If the dog is doing a behavior I don't want, they jumping up, and then I will turn my back, and I can use negative punishment. I remove my...
No. You don't understand what punishment is. That's the reality. And by coming on here onto a video and talking about it, you're proving that you don't understand it. You have not read Skinner whatsoever.
Myself as a way to punish the dog. I remove my attention as a way to...
You're trying to remove a behavior from a repertoire. The dog is doing a specific behavior. You're trying to remove that behavior from a repertoire. You have to be using punishment in order to do that. Do you understand that? Punishment attempts to remove a behavior from a bloody repertoire. Those are Skinner's own words. But yet you're sitting here telling me that I haven't read Skinner, and you have. You're full of shit, lady.
To punish the dog. There's a difference in punishing from the positive reinforcement group.
Really? Do explain that. Positive reinforcement is supposed to be all positive, right? There's not any punishment involved. Well, yes, you are using punishment. You are using all four quadrants, but claiming to be a positive reinforcement trainer. Okay? Where did the words compulsion-based dog training come from? From Conrad Most. It's compulsion-based dog training. Inducements and compulsions. That's the real quadrants of dog training. Not positive reinforcement, negative reinforcement, positive punishment, negative punishment. Again, Skinner himself openly opposed punishment, but you're sitting here blaming the man for the punishment quadrants.
To the compulsion group, towards the balance group. So if you're a balance trainer, you use all four quadrants, where you use what I explained earlier, and then you might use more corrections. You might you use, not getting all silly-nilly into the words, but you use...
You see, We're what, 6 minutes in here? I still haven't heard one definition. Define the word behavior. Define what positive reinforcement is. Define what negative reinforcement is. Define what punishment is. You can't do it. You're struggling to even talk on a video. That's the reality. But yet you're trying to come at me and prove me wrong. Keep on coming, please. You're just making a fool out of yourself.
Negative reinforcement. You lift up on the dog's collar and wait for them to sit. That's how you train a sit. I think that's unnatural. I think it's
Negative reinforcement is the removal of positive reinforcement. When you are taking the dog and choking it on a leash, you're trying to remove the dog's positive reinforcement. What is positive reinforcement? The dark side of positive reinforcement is aggression. Okay? The dog is trying to remove something negative. The dog is appearing to be something negative in the environment. It's trying to drive it away. Positive reinforcement is the removal of negative reinforcement. Negative reinforcement is the removal of positive reinforcement. That's the reality. When you see a dog showing aggression or reactivity, that is the dog's positive reinforcement response because you are negative reinforcement to the dog. The dog wants to remove you.
necessary. I don't think it's fair to the dog to just choke the dog or use a prong collar on a dog and pull.
I don't think it's fair either. Tools should not be used on any animal. Okay? Any dog trainer that would apply a tool to a dog that wouldn't apply a tool to a child, there's something wrong. Because there's not much difference between dog and a child. That's the whole thing with radical behaviorism. Skinner would tell you to replace your dog with a human child and ask you what you would do different. But yet here you are struggling to come back at me. You're struggling to come up with your own ideas. You're struggling to make people believe what you're saying.
Up on their collar and cause pain to them and discomfort at the very least until they sit, but that's negative reinforcement for you. Positive punishment means that you could spank a dog if you wanted to. If a dog you add something the dog finds distasteful.
You see, what she's calling positive punishment, Conrad Most would call primary inducive compulsions or compulsive inducements. That's the reality. She's pushing the wrong set of dog training quadrants. The real dog training quadrants, once again, is primary and secondary inducements. Primary inducement is what she's calling positive reinforcement. What she's calling positive punishment is actually primary compulsive inducements. That's the reality. She doesn't want you to know that because there's no money in it.
Or the dog finds the dog doesn't like as a punishment. So if you have a dog that you have say you have an e-collar on or a prong collar on, if a dog is being reactive and jumping, then you would punish the dog by adding positive punishment, by adding a prong collar pop, or
I would just stand there and be calm. You know what? The dog is reacting to something negative in the environment. I need to understand what that something negative in the environment is that's causing the dog to show bad behaviors. And most times it's the owner causing it because the owner's freaking out. The owner's not calm. The dog is a reflection of the owner. That's the reality. And that's something that Taylor Wachowski will never understand. If you're not in a good state of mind, what do you expect the dog to do? The dog can smell your hormones. The dog can smell cortisol in you. When you're afraid, guess what? The dog smells fear off of you. They monitor us and watch us in ways that we can't understand, and they do it in real time.
hit the button on the e-collar remote. That would shock the dog, and that would tell the dog no. That would tell the dog. Well, it wouldn't tell the dog no. It would tell the dog, it would make the dog hurt, and the dog might over time learn that, oh, when I do this, then I get pain, so I'm going to stop doing that.
That's called punishment. That is called removing a behavior from the animal's repertoire. But you're not removing that behavior, you're only suppressing it. And that's downright stupid and dangerous for any dog trainer to tell a human being. Okay? You have dog trainers out there right now telling owners to suppress the dog's aggression. And that is the most stupid frickin' advice you could ever give. Because it's dangerous. At some point, if and when the dog bites, the trainer's not going to take accountability for it. They are speaking the words, but they will not take accountability when the dog actually bites.
With compulsion training, it's just that much. They don't even try to use
The compulsion training. There you go with Conrad Most again, which is a book you haven't read. You really should start reading some books, Taylor, because you're totally ignorant. You have no idea what you're talking about, and here you are struggling to try to explain something that you don't understand to your own freaking followers, and they're stupid enough to listen to you.
positive reinforcement. They just go straight for yanking.
Once again, positive reinforcement doesn't exist as a tool. It's not a measure. It's not something you pull out of a bag. Positive reinforcement is about survival of the animal and the fittest, the things you're willing to do. There's a dark side of positive reinforcement that you don't understand.
Crank old school methods. Think about in the 50s when You could
You see, she's trying to align me with a dog trainer. I don't train dogs, okay? I've never trained a dog. I don't even train my own dog. My own dog knows to sit. All I got to do is look at him. We get this communication going on. Why? Because I understand that the dog is sentient. The dog is not much different from me. My own dog is my mirror. My own dog reflects my own emotions. If I'm not in a good state of mind, guess what? My dog is not in a good state of mind. But when I stay calm, I give my dog a chance to overcome. It has to be on the dog. When a dog is flipping out, when a dog is at the end of the leash raging, I'm going to stay calm. I want to let the dog get it out of his system. They need to come to terms with the idea that, you know what, nothing bad is happening. They need the time to rationalize the way through that fear and let themselves know that nothing bad is coming out of it. This is how a dog overcomes. They learn to self-manage their behaviors. But according to Taylor Wachowski, every behavior needs to be trained, and you cannot train a dog to behave. That's the reality. You can train a dog for abnormal behaviors, but you cannot train a dog's emotions. You need to understand emotions. And that's the whole thing about psychology.
smack a dog on the ass and just say, sit, or you would smack them in the head when they did something wrong.
I don't use punishment. I don't apply punishment. I don't believe in abusing dogs. I don't believe in hurting dogs. I believe in understanding dogs. I believe in understanding behaviors. Taylor has no understanding of what a behavior is. She couldn't even define the word, and I dare her. Get online and do one video, Taylor, where you define the word behavior and explain where they come from, what causes behaviors. You get online and you define positive reinforcement. You define negative reinforcement. You define punishment as Skinner defined it. I dare you. You cannot do it. You will not do it because you will end your own career.
Or you would choke them, or you would helicopter them, or you fling them up in the air and you slam them on their back.
You see, she's coming at this idea that, you know what, positive reinforcement is much better because we don't want to be abusing dogs, but yet she doesn't realize that what she's pushing as positive reinforcement is also abuse of a dog. You're trying to take a dog and you're trying to put it into a situation. It's a narcissistic control environment. When you're trying to manipulate a dog with treats, food, affection, it's no different from doing that to a child. You wouldn't do it to a child. Don't do it to a dog.
You could do all sorts of things, and that is compulsion training. You are compulsive with your corrections, and even, I mean, to me, it's not training, but it's just abuse. But anyway, let's hear what Robert has to say.
Patterns of dog training are not positive reinforcement, negative reinforcement, positive or positive punishment, negative punishment. They are in fact primary and secondary inducements and primary and secondary inducement compulsions. Then she goes on to mention
Okay,
compulsion-based
so
dog
he's
training
telling me
book.
that what Skinner says himself, and has been quoted quoted himself, B.F. Skinner, that they're not four quadrants. He says there's something else. Okay, then apparently a lot of other people are wrong.
And once again, I offered you the links, the book links to Conrad Most Training Dogs. Once you read the book Training Dogs, you will understand exactly what you're pushing, Taylor. What you're pushing as positive reinforcement is actually primary inducements. That's the reality. You're using food and affection to manipulate a dog to get the dog to see things your way. That's by definition an inducement. You're trying to get the dog to do something to see the things your way, but you're not treating the dog as a sentient being.
I'm not the only one that's wrong.
Guess what? Guess where the compulsion name for balance training came from? The inducements and compulsions from Conrad Most. Okay? Let's get into this. Let's start with the definition of operant conditioning. In her mind, in operant conditioning, positive reinforcement involves the addition of reinforcing stimulus. Bullshit. And she declares this is all B.F. Skinner. She's never read a book from B.F. Skinner, and she should. Everybody should sit down and read a book from B.F. Skinner.
He's not the God all, be all, one all, be all of dog training. Just because, I mean, this is from him. I didn't just make this up. This is a definition from, well, at least a Google definition of what I got that has been.
There you go, the Google definition. That's all it is. She's going to artificial intelligence. She's asking artificial intelligence to define operant conditioning. And if you go through and listen to some of my videos, you will actually understand that AI is geared. When you don't understand what you're talking about, when you don't understand the very definition, you get a narrative definition back. You get a bullshit definition back from AI. I urge people, go to artificial intelligence and ask artificial intelligence to define positive reinforcement, define negative reinforcement, define operant conditioning as B.F. Skinner did in his book about behaviorism. That's what you need to do. You need to nail AI and tell it point blank to give me the definition from B.F. Skinner itself. But yet she's going to AI, she's using Google to satisfy her own knowledge. She learned wrong, and AI is reflecting that bullshit knowledge. Go to artificial intelligence and ask them to define B.F. Skinner operant conditioning as it was defined in the book about behaviorism. You will recognize in one sentence from AI that Taylor Wachowski is lying to you. She has no idea that she's lying to you. That's the purpose. Because she wants to make money. I'm not making money at this. Money is not my end game. Every dog trainer out there wants to make money, and they don't want to push the right knowledge because once they start pushing the right knowledge, they end their own career.
Quoted, or is said to have been quoted from him. I don't know what you're talking about.
Exactly, you'd have no idea what you're talking about because you've never read the books. Again, read the summation to About Behaviorism. I will give you the book link. Prove it to yourself. But the problem is you don't want to prove it to yourself. You don't want to define operant conditioning. You don't want to provide a definition for behavior. You don't want to provide a real definition for positive reinforcement because you will sink your own career. That's the reality. You're lying to people, and you got to keep the lies going. You're no different from any other dog trainers pushing the same garbage.
Positive reinforcement, a direct quote from Google. An operant condition, positive.
There you go. It's always a direct quote from Google. What makes you think that artificial intelligence is telling you the truth? And I'm going to do a video about this later on. I'm going to nail AI's ass to the wall and tell AI point blank, once again, to define operant conditioning as Skinner defined it, not as fucking Edward Thorndike defined it. This is the problem. She's pushing Edward Thorndike. She has never read Edward Thorndike. She's pushing methodological behaviorism, but she's declaring it's radical behaviorism. It is not. Radical behaviorist, as B.F Skinner would put it, would tell you to replace your dog with a human child and ask you what you would do different. This is not convenient to dog trainers.
Reinforcement involves the addition of a reinforcing stimulus following a behavior that makes it more likely the behavior will occur again in the future. When a favorable outcome, event, or reward occurs after an action, the particular response or behavior will be strengthened. I wrote that in my book. I wrote that here.
And it's all wrong. Once again, if you sit down and read B.F. Skinner, which no trainer yet, I have not talked to one trainer yet who's actually sat down and read a book from B.F. Skinner. They admit it. They have no choice but to admit it because what they're telling you is bullshit. That's the reality. And they keep this fucking train of bullshit going because they can't do anything else. They need to make money. That's the reality. And this whole thing for lying to you is about making money. They're I can't make you appreciate this. It's all about money to them.
This has been quoted from B.F. Skinner. Unless Google is wrong.
Where is the quote from B.F. Skinner? AI is feeding you a narrative definition because you're too stupid. It recognizes that you do not have the knowledge. You are using AI to think for yourself. Okay? You're not thinking for yourself. You're using artificial intelligence to think for you. And artificial intelligence is not your friend in that capacity. When you have the knowledge to push back on AI, you would be amazed at what AI is going to tell you. But that's not convenient to you. You want to hear what you want to hear, and AI can only reflect what you want to hear.
I might be wrong. This is what I've gotten.
Yeah, this is what you've gotten from artificial intelligence. Unless you and I do a podcast, you will not face me on a camera. That's the reality. You're too scared to because I will rip you apart on live and there will be nothing left because you can't even define the word behavior. Everybody wants to come to me and talk about behaviors, but yet nobody wants to define the word. If you can't define the word that you want to talk about, then there's no sense in talking about it. If you can't define positive reinforcement, negative reinforcement, operant conditioning, then there's no sense in even talking about it. What you're pushing as a definition of B.F. Skinner's about operant conditioning is absolute bullshit.
And then I give you an example afterwards.
Why do I say that? She's defining operant conditioning like every other dog trainer is defining operant conditioning. And
so why are you so special? What are you learning from? You know what? I'm going to get a book from B.F. Skinner. I'm sure there are multiple books of his. I'm just going to get a book.
Jesus, I'll give you the links. I'll give you the books so you can read. Not a problem. There's some great, wonderful books out there. Start with About Behaviorism. You will understand Skinner. And once you read that book, then there's no more denying that you're lying to people. It's going to open your mind. It's going to change your life. It's going to make you better. It's going to make you understand how to work with behaviors. You cannot train a dog to behave. That's the reality. But this is the narrative that they push. They're using artificial intelligence to think for them, and artificial intelligence is going to give you a bullshit narrative. Sit down and read the frickin' books. All these trainers learn is the bullshit definitions of what other trainers want you to learn in order to make money. Again, I don't make money at this. I'm trying to help people understand their dog's behaviors, not try to fix them through a behavioral dog training.
of his and read it. And you know what? That'll be for my own good because I don't care to prove anything to you, Mr. Hines.
I don't care if you want to prove anything to me. I want you to sit down and read B.F Skinner and prove it to yourself. Prove to yourself that you're lying, Taylor. You don't want to admit that you're lying because you don't know. You've never actually read the books, and it's right here, right in front of me. Your definition of operant conditioning and positive reinforcement is fucking wrong. You're going to AI. You're proving to me that you're using Google AI to try to prove me wrong. But yet, when you tell AI to actually sit down and read the book, you actually tell artificial intelligence to bring out Skinner's book about behaviorism and define what operant conditioning is. Your definition of operant conditioning is a method of behavioral modification using reward and punishment. Again, Skinner openly opposed punishment, but it's not convenient to you to make that differentiation.
I don't know why you care about going after me and saying, "Oh yeah,
I'm not going after you. You came after me. That's the reality. And you're trying to organize this little group, and I'm reading the comments. All the hateful little comments on this video right now. Oh, the man is crazy. The man is this. The man is that. None of these people have ever sat down and read a fucking book from Skinner. That's the reality. They don't want to be proven wrong. This is called human pride. Human pride is what keeps people ignorant. Mark Twain said, point blank, it's so much easier to fool people than it is to convince them that they've been fooled. And people's pride is what keeps them from sitting down there and thinking, you know what, maybe I have been fooled. And you have been fooled. Dog owners, you are the only one that can help your dog. You don't need to be spending good money on dog trainers that are trying to teach your dog to behave. You need to understand what behavior is. You need to understand why your dog is acting the way they are. That's the very underlying cause of psychology. What is psychology? It's understanding causes of behaviors.
exposing you." Yeah, you're really exposing me. I'm just following exactly what.
I'm not exposing you. You're exposing yourself. You're just following Google. You're taking what Google says as word, and you're not going through and actually proving if AI is actually telling you the truth or lying to you. That's the reality. You do not want to read a book. I wish you would read a book. I'm asking you, I'm begging you to read one fucking book. Because once you do, you throw your entire career in the garbage. And that's not what you want, is it? Because all of a sudden now there's no way to make money. And it's all about money. Showing the money. That's all trainers care about.
Google said. And maybe I can double check my stuff, but okay.
Google says this. I'm asking you to sit down and read a book and ask yourself, is Google right? But you won't. You're sitting here instead trying to prove me wrong, but still being ignorant. You're proving to me that you're trying to fight the contest of books that you haven't read, and that's the worst thing in the world you can do. That's the biggest form of ignorance. You're trying to prove that you've read the frickin' books when you clearly haven't. I'm asking you, sit down and read a frickin' book from B.F. Skinner itself. You've learned all about Skinner, and what you've been told about Skinner is wrong. But you don't want to admit it because then you won't make money. If you get on Google and look up operant conditioning, it comes back with a method of behavioral modification used in reward and punishment, hence the quadrants of dog training. How does Skinner define operant conditioning? Let's take a look, because it wasn't that way.
Right,
A very different process through which a person comes to deal effectively with a new environment is operant conditioning. Many things in the environment, such as food, water, sexual contact, and escape from harm, are crucial for the survival of the individual and the species, and any behavior that produces them, therefore, has survival value. All of this is based on positive consequences and negative consequences of the animal's choices, okay? Not reward and punishment from the human. What you're looking at, escape from...
That's operant conditioning. Duh. Operant conditioning is also part of the 4 quadrants.
No, it's not. Again, B.F. Skinner openly opposed punishment, but yet you keep telling people that Skinner created the quadrants of dog training. Skinner had nothing to do with the quadrants of dog training. They turned around, they assassinated B.F. Skinner back in the 1960s and replaced him with Edward Thorndike, but you don't want to see that. You don't want to see it. The law of effect. That's Edward Thorndike. That's all reward and punishment, and we're all living in this goddamn matrix of reward and punishment. You are a narcissist, and you don't realize it because you're trying to control a dog's behavior using reward and fucking punishment. But you don't want to admit that. Put the reward and punishment away and understand the behavior. That's what I'm trying to get to you. You keep saying you're going to read a book from Skinner. This is the very book. Skinner right now is defining operant conditioning as for what it is. It's all about survival of the animal and the fittest, and you're still trying to tell people that it's a method of behavioral modification using reward and punishment. You do not want to accept what Skinner is telling you because it doesn't make you money. harm is called flight. All of this other stuff, guess what? You're going to have a fight response, which means moving forward. Flight responses are your positive reinforcement. So when you see a dog in full blown.
A flight response is not positive reinforcement. All of that is just fight, flight, fiddle, faint, or freeze. All of that would be a negative response for a dog. In my
You see, one of the dark sides of positive reinforcement, these trainers look at positive reinforcement like it's all positive. You're adding something. You're not adding shit. You're trying to add treats. You're trying to add manipulation. You're trying to add control and management. This is all manipulation. That's the reality. But you don't want to admit that. You're trying to manipulate the animal to see things your way, and it doesn't work that way. If you raise your child under that premise where you reward everything positive that they do, you would screw them up for life. Dogs are no different. Dogs are sentient beings. What is sentience? You can't even define the word sentience, can you? I had to go to artificial intelligence, something non-sentient, in order to make me understand what sentience is. It's all about awareness. It's all about consciousness. But there's no consciousness here. Even in the face of operant conditioning, Skinner's definition of operant conditioning, she's in full denial.
opinion, flight from anything is not a good. That means the dog is fearful. That's not a positive.
Escape from harm is positive to the dog. That's the problem. You don't want to see the world through the dog's set of eyes, Taylor. You're looking at the dog's world through your own eyes. Look at the dog's world through the dog's set of eyes, and it's going to change everything you're saying, everything you're doing. And this is what Skinner was getting at. We're looking at the world through the wrong set of eyes. It's a narcissistic environment of control and management. The dog is a product of a narcissistic environment of control and management. This is what you're not getting. You are the product of a narcissistic environment. Okay? This is what you don't realize. Your whole life has been shaped by rewards and punishments, and that's not fair. Rewards themselves are the biggest punishment you can do because you're taking away the dog's sentience. Do you understand that?
For the dog. A human can understand that. A dog can probably understand that as well. I mean, a dog can understand that probably better than a human can. That, hey, this is scary. I want to get away from it. They're smarter than humans.
Yes, and escape from harm is positive reinforcement. If you would read one book, read this very book. One book about behaviorism. I will give you the links. I will give you the links to Conrad Most Training Dogs, but you don't want to read them. This is pure ignorance. This is called human pride. Once you put away your pride and you read the books, then you realize that you're lying to people. And there's no money to be made because you don't need to train the dog to behave. This is what you're not getting. And you're struggling to try to put me down. You're struggling to try to destroy the message. Okay? That's the reality, and it's not fair to dog owners. You're lying to dog owners. You're manipulating dog owners to see things your way, and even in the face of a real definition, you still have to deny it. And aggression and reactivity, the dog is showing positive reinforcement. They're trying to remove a negative reinforcement, and we're going to get into that a little bit further down, okay? Through the process of operant conditioning, behavior having this kind of consequences becomes more likely to occur. So yeah, if you give your child a bowl of ice cream for the first time and they love it, guess what? It's going to be more likely to occur. It's a positive consequence. If your child reaches out and touches the hot stove, the consequence of a burn for their actions is a negative consequence that's going to turn immediately into a negative reinforcement that teaches the child to avoid the hot stove. Okay? This is the reality. But yet, Taylor.
So operant conditioning is either a positive or a negative. Operant conditioning is you do something like he's explaining. It's also part of the 4 quadrants where humans get involved and humans can...
Once again, she's trying to push this idea that Skinner created the quadrants of dog training. Skinner had nothing to do with the quadrants of dog training. Skinner was not an animal trainer. He was not a dog trainer, period. He never wrote any books on dog training. This is where we need to get away from Skinner. Skinner had nothing to do with dog training. Skinner had nothing to do with what you define as operant conditioning. You define operant conditioning, and you're stuck on this version of operant conditioning of behavior modification using reward and punishment. That's all you're trying to do is reward a dog, and you're punishing the dog for things you don't like. Whether you accept it or not, you are using the 4 quadrants of dog training, which are in reality primary and secondary inducements and primary and secondary compulsive inducements. Again, if you would understand and read the book from Conrad Most, you would understand what you're pushing as dog training, but you don't want to. You do not want to read these books because it will crush what you're saying and you will destroy your own career.
Operant conditioning is more of the dog's own consequences. You know, can humans be involved in that? Absolutely. People use operant conditioning all the time, but they use operant conditioning in the form...
You don't use operant conditioning. This is the problem. Positive reinforcement is not a tool. Operant conditioning is not a tool. It's a method of understanding the causes of behavior. You do not give a shit about the causes of the behavior. Why is the dog acting out in the first place? What is the dog scared of? What is the dog reacting to? It's a reflection of you. You are an animal, Taylor. Like it or not, you are an animal and you have the same instincts as the dog. You are responding to emotions. Your mind is playing catch up all the time. Your mind has no involvement in your behaviors. You believe in free will. You do not have free will when it comes to behaviors. And once you understand that, and that understanding can only come through reading B.F Skinner, but you want to accept what you've been told about B.F Skinner. You're like the rest of the trainers. You do not want to sit down and read Skinner because it will crush your very ideologies. Reading Skinner will make you better. Reading Skinner will make you understand behaviors instead of trying to fix behaviors, because behaviors are not fixable. They are not conditions in the first place, let alone fixable.
Of the four quadrants.
I was telling you point blank, goes adding things. Just have a treat. No, it's not. What,
Yeah, it is.
what else are we going to get into? But once again, she's proven that she hasn't read the contents of books. She hasn't read Skinner. She said it a couple times in this showcase. She will read Skinner. Well, please do. You sit down and read a book about behaviors, even just the 35 pages of the summation, and come back and talk to me. Actually put your face on camera. Grow a set of balls. If you're so good and you're so cocksure about what you're pushing, then get me on camera and let's have a civilized conversation. But you won't do it. Instead, you hide in the shadows. If you had any balls at all, you would have tagged me in this video to let me know, hey, you know what? You're wrong. Here, I'm tagging you. I want you to prove. I want to prove to you you're wrong, but you can't even do that. You're trying to shoot the messenger. All I'm bringing forward is a message, and you don't want to hear it. You don't want your followers to hear it because it's not beneficial to you. It's not beneficial to your wallet.
Besides, why do you care? Why do you care if me, a nobody who has a web page that anybody can make a web page? You can make your own web page, Robert.
That's the problem. Anybody can come up with any knowledge that they want, and you're selling bullshit. And you expect people to swallow that bullshit, and you're making money off of us of sweating that bullshit. You're pushing garbage. You haven't read Skinner. But yet you keep saying you're going to read Skinner. You haven't. Have you ever read Carl Jung? Have you ever read Sigmund Freud? This is the trifecta of psychology. You have no knowledge of psychology whatsoever, and you're pushing the same bullshit narrative that everybody else is pushing, that they're making money off of. It's all about money. This is the money maker. You're extorting dog owners through bullshit knowledge to make money off them, and that is the biggest form of lie in the world, and I can't tolerate liars. I cannot tolerate liars. I cannot lie to people. I refuse to lie to people. All I'm giving them is the truth. You're trying to feed them a load of bullshit. And yet you haven't got the balls to even tag me in a video to say, you know what, here's what I think of you. That speaks volumes of his own, Taylor. If you had the balls to tell me that I'm wrong, if you've read all the books and you can prove me wrong, you would have no problems at all putting your face on camera and having a civilized discussion with me. But you're not willing to. You're like other trainers. You hide out in the shadow. Oh, Robert is wrong, but yet I don't want him to see his video. Heaven forbid he sees his video. Well, I've seen the video.
Why do you care what I have to say because you think I'm spreading misinformation? I'm just spreading information that is already widely put out there in the world.
Yes, they're widely put out there in the world, and people have fallen for this information. This is all extortion, whether you realize it or not, because you're feeding a load of bullshit. You refuse to read the books that you're pushing. You're pushing incorrect definitions, but you don't want to prove it to yourself. You don't want to prove it to your followers. You don't want to prove anything, because they haven't read the books either. You're saying point blank, you're using lat on dog owners. Look at that. Don't look over there. Pay attention to me. I got the right information. Over there is the right information. Oh my God, heaven forbid your followers actually sit down and read a book. This is all I'm pushing. It's for people to sit down and read some books. But yet you're coming at me from ignorance. You haven't read the fucking books. That's the reality. And you don't want to read the books, because once you read the books and understand the message that Skinner was putting forth, you destroy your own career. You're no longer a dog trainer. You can become a behaviorist, but you don't want to. You can't even define the word behavior. You can't define positive reinforcement. You're putting out the same bullshit narrative definitions that everybody else is to make money off of. And again, I don't make money off of this. I'm not money grubbing. I'm passing along a message. If you don't like it, too bad.
That many people can either come and take it or they can leave it. Just like you. I'm not going to your page. I don't care to go to your page. I don't care to do anything.
Remember, you started this. You came at me. You tried to denounce a video on positive reinforcement I did. You drew first blood. Okay? You don't like the fact that I keep coming at you, but you don't stop coming at me. And the more you come at me, guess what? I'm just going to respond. That's all I need to do. Again, you will not read the books. I can give you the books. I'll give you the downloads for the books. You don't even need to buy them. Sit down and read the books. I dare you. And then come back and try to have a civilized conversation instead of this bullshit you're doing online.
Anything about you. The only reason I'm covering this video about you, I heard that you had done this, and I was going to ignore it, but somebody asked me to cover it, so I decided to cover it.
And I'm glad you did, because again, you're proving yourself and you're proving to everybody else that what you're pushing is narrative. That's all you're pushing. Again, sit down and read the books and then come back and talk to me. But you won't. You're scared to. You're too insecure to do so because you will throw your own career in the garbage. If you read Skinner, it will make you so much better, Taylor, but you refuse to. You want to stay ignorant and you want your followers to stay ignorant, and that is not fair. And it all surrounds your wallet, doesn't it? Negative punishment, positive reinforcement. Again, positive reinforcement is actually the removal of negative reinforcement. What is negative reinforcement?
No, positive reinforcement is not the removal of negative reinforcement. Negative reinforcement in itself, I mean, if you want to call it that, then
Again, tell me you haven't read Skinner without telling me you haven't read Skinner. The application of negative reinforcement, when you use force, that's called punishment. You're trying to remove an animal's positive reinforcement, okay? And it's working against you. But again, she hasn't read the book. She doesn't want to read the books because it's not comfortable for her. That's the reality. For anybody following Taylor Wilkowski, I urge you, contact me. I will give you a download for one book that will change your entire life, and it will make you understand that you, as a dog owner, are the only one that can help your dog. You're the only one that can build that relationship. What the dog trainers are doing is putting you into a transactional relationship of reward and punishment. That's all it is. Transactional relationships are based on reward in humans. If you think about trauma bonding, they're pushing you into a trauma bond with your dog that you don't understand, you don't want to be in. They keep you trapped in that reinforcement loop of reward and punishment, and it's not working. At some point, dog owners need to understand, you know what, this shit is not working. You need to walk away, and you need to come and find the right information.
some nitpicky person might, or someone who is far more knowledgeable than myself will be like, no, that's actually correct. Okay.
Somebody far more knowledgeable. It's not about being more knowledgeable. It's about actually sitting down and being realistic with yourself, being honest with yourself. You're talking about the books that you haven't read. You're trying to push your idea of a book that you haven't read. One book. You haven't read the book, but yet you want to challenge that. You're like a freaking Christian. Most Christians that I've met have never sat down and read the Bible, but yet they will sit down and argue black and blue about the contents of books that they haven't read. And that's the biggest form of ignorance that you can ever push on people. This is called human pride. You don't want to admit that you've been fooled, and you keep up this ideology that you're right and everybody else is wrong when you haven't read the books.
By removing a negative reinforcement, that shouldn't be positive reinforcement to the dog. That I can see how you can say it that way, but I don't think that
It's not the trainer that needs to remove the negative reinforcement. It's the dog that needs to overcome the negatives in the environment. And to do that, you need to be calm and you need to give them that chance to rationalize. Dogs never learn a skill called rationalization. What is rationalization? When you're in the face of something new and something you fear, you're not too sure about, your body goes into fight or flight. Your mind is not in control. Your mind is trying to play catch up. That's the reality. The mind has no play in your behaviors. Free will is in the mind. That's the source of all your desires, your wants, your needs. These are your free will. But your free will does not come into play with behaviors. Your limbic system controls all your behaviors. The mind is trying to play catch up. But again, she doesn't want you to know this. That's the reality. This is pure psychology.
that's really how it works. I mean, negative reinforcement is just removing something the dog doesn't like in order.
Again, the dog needs to remove the negative reinforcement. They need to turn negatives into positives. That's all positive reinforcement is. It's turning negatives into positives. But trainers are trying to do that for the dog. The problem is, trainers need to learn to shut up. Just stand there and be calm and let the dog figure it out. When you're in the face of something negative, if you have a child that's meeting something for the first time and they're not sure, is shoving food in their face going to help them overcome that fear? Because a human being in a state of calm is more attractive to that scared child than anything else. It's the same for the dog. If you stand there and be calm and stop making a big deal out of everything, it gives the dog a chance to rationalize through all that fear. They finally come to terms. Okay, you know what? This thing is not scary. Nothing bad is happening. My owner's standing there calm. This is the whole reflection of do nothing. Stop trying to help the dog. Stop trying to fix the dog. The dog is not broken. The relationship with your dog is broken. And it's trainers that are responsible for breaking that relationship with your dog. They want you in a transactional relationship, reward and punishment. I want you to understand your dog. I want you to trust your dog. I want you to respect your dog because they are sentient beings. This needs to stop. Taylor Wilkowski is sitting here on camera trying to struggle in the face of fucking quotes from B.F Skinner to tell you that she's right about B.F Skinner when she hasn't read a book. But I'm not supposed to get upset by that.
To increase a behavior. That's why it's called negative reinforcement. Reinforcement is to increase a behavior. Negative means you remove something the dog doesn't like to increase that behavior. Does that mean after that, then it's positive reinforcement because the dog is no longer...
Again, she's trying to corner. She's talking in circles. She has no idea what she's talking about. She's asking all these questions about positive reinforcement, negative reinforcement. She can't define the words, even in the face of proof. When she's sitting there reading what operant conditioning is from B.F. Skinner's book about behaviorism, she's still trying to condescend. She's still trying to say, you know what, I'm right. Even in the face of a quote from B.F. Skinner, she's telling you point blank that B.F. Skinner created the quarters of dog training when he openly opposed punishment. But that's not realistic for her. Once you define operant conditioning, there's no money to be made. You understand that you're not training dogs to behave. You need to understand why the dog is acting out in the first place. And nobody is asking why is the dog acting out.
Longer getting corrected. I guess you can say that, but I don't believe it.
You don't believe it. You don't get to believe in this stuff. You believe in what you learned. You're not actually sitting down and quantifying that learning by sitting down and reading a book. All these dog trainers, they learn all about B.F. Skinner. But I haven't met one trainer yet, and especially Taylor Bukowski, none of them, when they're pressed to the fire, they have to admit that they haven't read Skinner, they haven't read Carl Jung, they haven't read Freud, they haven't read shit. They don't know anything about psychology, but yet they're pushing their narrative on it. And you're paying the price for that, dog owners. They're destroying your relationship with your dog so they can make money off of you. Removal of positive reinforcement. Okay? Negative reinforcement.
If I remove positive reinforcement, that's called punishment. That's not negative reinforcement. If I remove my positive reinforcement and I end up punishing the dog, that will change what the dog does so I can positively reinforce them again after.
Again, she's talking herself in circles. She doesn't understand what positive reinforcement is. Positive reinforcement is all about turning negatives into positives. That's all it is. And the dog needs to do that, not the human being. The human being is all focused on trying to fix a dog that's not broken. The dog that's raging it in the leash is raging for a reason. Why? Because it's in the face of something negative. It's raging, it's barking, it's showing aggression to try to drive away that negative. The dog is trying to remove the negative reinforcement. The dog needs to turn that negative reinforcement into a positive reinforcement. That's what positive reinforcement is. It's all about turning negatives into positives. How does a dog do that? When the owner's in a state of fear. If the owner's in a state of fear and they're cranking and yanking on a leash or trying to shove food in the dog's mouth, you're interfering with the dog's operant conditioning. That's the reality, and you're making things worse.
Afterwards.
Enforcements generate behaviors. Punishment is a different animal altogether, okay?
It's to decrease a behavior. Reinforcement increases behavior, punishment decreases.
In the face of something negative, when you meet something new, Taylor, in the environment, it's a negative reinforcement to you. How do you overcome that negative reinforcement? Your body's going to go fight, flight, or freeze. That's the reality. Do I fight for my life? Do I run away from my life? That's how you get away from negative reinforcements. You fight or you flight, okay? You try to drive it away or you move yourself away from it. You're removing negative reinforcements. Positive reinforcement is the removal of negative reinforcement. When you apply negative reinforcement, you're trying to forcefully remove dog's positive reinforcement. The dog's positive reinforcement is fight or flight in that instance, but you're trying to shut it down. You're telling dog owners to step in front between the dog and the environment, and you're telling the owner to deal out artificial reward and punishment for something negative in the environment that's already punishing the dog. But yet you're sitting here going, oh, I'm right. You're not right. You have no idea what you're talking about.
Behavior.
Definition, behavioral psychology. The goal of punishment is to decrease a certain unwanted behavior. That's kind of sort of right. What does Skinner say about it?
So this guy is riding on Skinner's dick and thinking that Skinner is like the best guy in the entire world, that there's so many other psychologists.
Here's the problem. The entire dog training community at large blames B.F. Skinner for the creation of the quadrants of dog training. That is the biggest lie ever. B.F. Skinner, once you sit down and actually read his books instead of pushing the fucking same narrative that you learned from school that is wrong, then you understand that you're lying to people. That's the reality. You're pushing the same narrative bullshit because you haven't read the fucking books. You don't want to read the books. I'm asking you to sit down and read one book and then have a civilized conversation with me about what B.F. Skinner said. You're pushing B.F. Skinner as the creator of the Quadrant of Dog Training, but the creator of the Quadrant of Dog Training is actually Conrad fucking Most. That's not convenient to you. You're pushing Conrad Most and blaming B.F. Skinner. You're pushing Edward Thorndike and blaming B.F. Skinner. That's the whole kick. That's the problem. When you haven't actually sat down and read any psychology, you're ignorant. And ignorance is lack of fucking knowledge. It's knowledge that is power. It's knowledge that leads to understanding, and once you understand, then you throw dog training in the garbage. There's only one result.
Just out there that have come up with other things and other theories and so much more work and all that, but no, he doesn't care because he's riding on Skinner. He is, he's going for Skinner, and that's the one all.
And it's more than B.F. Skinner, sweetheart. Carl Jung. Let me tell you something. You should read Carl Jung. You want to blow your mind? And then get into Sigmund Freud, id, ego, and superego. Once you understand that id is Skinner, superego is Carl Jung, both of those are in the garbage right now because people don't understand them. The only thing left is ego, and that's what society is being driven by right now, is pure ego. Id and superego are gone. And again, if you would understand psychology, if you'd sit down and read a little bit of psychology, which is not efficient to you, it doesn't qualify your own knowledge. That's the reality. You don't want to qualify your own knowledge, but you're going to sit there and lie to people because you haven't read a book and it's all you know to do. You cannot qualify your own knowledge because you haven't read a book.
Be all for him. That he's I don't know what it is with him, but he is just in love and obsessed with Skinner. That Skinner can do no wrong, and that the when Skinner would.
Skinner's 100% right. But again, if you would sit down and read them and understand them, what Skinner suggested as a Skinner box is actually the matrix that we all live in. Okay? He wasn't trying to stuff people into a Skinner box. He was trying to explain that the Skinner box is the form of control. That's the reality. The Skinner box is all about reward and punishment, and he was all against reward and punishment. He wrote papers on the negatives of a punitive society that we all live in. We live in a punitive society of reward and punishment. It's a narcissistic environment, and we are all products of that narcissistic environment. That's what she doesn't realize. When she's training a dog, she's using her own narcissistic environment to try to shape the dog into something that she wants, and it's not how it works.
Would subject animals to learned helplessness, that's okay too, right?
Skinner did not develop the theory of learned helplessness. He described what learned helplessness was to a T. Punishment is easily confused with negative reinforcement, sometimes called aversive control. So again, I'm actually reading the book from B.F. Skinner himself. These are actually prints, quotes taken from the book itself. They're snapshots, and she's trying to go against it. She's trying to explain that Skinner was wrong. Well, Skinner was 100% right. She's blaming Skinner for the quadrants of dog training, but yes, she's trying to prove him wrong. Versatile controls, the treats, the tools, the prong collars, the e-collars. This is what Skinner's getting at. The same stimuli are used, and negative reinforcement might be defined as punishment for not behaving. Might be defined as punishment, but yet, dog trainers put negative reinforcement and punishment together. They are not the same. But punishment is designed to remove a behavior from a repertoire, where
I don't think trainers put I don't think trainers put negative reinforcement and punishment as the same. They are different, and they are defined differently, because one is, although I think they're the same, negative reinforcement and punishment are just.
I think that negative reinforcement are the same and punishment are the same. She's again pushing the same bullshit narrative. Negative reinforcement are natural in the environment, the things that you're scared of. When you're standing on a street corner waiting to cross a road, there's cars whipping by you. These are all negative reinforcements that you've rationalized away. That's the reality. The dog never gets to learn to rationalize because we have a dog trainer standing in the way between the dog and something negative in the environment, and they're trying to inflict artificial negative and not positive on the dog. They're trying to fix the dog that's not broken. You need to stand there calmly. Do nothing for a change. Nothing else has worked. Try doing nothing. When your dog starts acting out and it's a safe condition to be in, just stand there, hold the leash, let the dog get it out of his system, let the dog bark it out. They need to learn to rationalize, to say to themselves, okay, you know what? I'm scared right now. My owner's not scared. My owner's standing there calm and confident. I can join the owner in that state of calm. And once you start doing that, they're going to start coming to you instead of being afraid. They're going to come to you for that positive reinforcement that you are, instead of being afraid and reacting to something in the environment. Owners don't realize that they are a negative reinforcement to their own dogs. It's negative reinforcements that generate behaviors of fight and flight. When you're in the face of something negative in the environment, Taylor, you are going to go into a fight or flight response. And you need the time to overcome, to figure it out in your own mind. Is this thing worthy of being afraid of? Do I need to run away or fight for my life? Or can I make it not a big deal? This is called indifference. This is the skill learned from rationalization. You learn to make things indifferent. You become indifferent. It's not a big scary thing anymore. I don't know why that's so hard to understand.
Both unnecessary and is sometimes cruel. They are negative reinforcement is you remove something negative to
No, the dog is going to learn to remove something negative from the environment. That's the reality. There's something negative in the environment. You don't understand what that negative in the environment is. The negative in the environment is punishing the dog. That negative reinforcement is what's generating the behaviors of fight and flight. You don't realize that. You're not trying to understand that. You need to let the dog figure it out for themselves that, you know what, this thing is not worth being afraid of. I can be calm. In the face of this thing, once I realize it's not a negative, it's not a bad thing, I can overcome. I can put it into the not a big deal bucket, just like human beings do. Dogs are no different from human beings in that capacity, and this is radical behaviorism under Skinner. What she's pushing is Edward Thorndike, methodological behaviorism combined with Conrad Most training dogs. But yes, she hasn't read any of these books either, and it's clear to see. The woman is completely ignorant, and ignorant is lack of knowledge, and she's trying to sit here on video and prove the man that she blames for the quarters of dog training is wrong.
again increase a behavior. Punishment is used to decrease a behavior. So there is a difference between them. I don't know what trainer is saying that these are the same, unless he
Negative
means me.
reinforcement generates behavior. And do I need to explain that? Punishment is designed to remove a behavior from a repertoire, but that's all we ever hear from the positive reinforcement crowd is to stop behaviors, shut down behaviors. You're trying to remove a behavior from a repertoire, and it's all punishment. Guess what? Negative reinforcement generates behaviors. So when your dog is going fight and flight in the environment, it's something in the environment. Guess what? There's something in the environment that it looks at as a negative reinforcement. The negative reinforcement that's in the environment is actually punishing the dog and generating the behavior of fight and flight.
I would say the dog would see it more as punishment than negative reinforcement. The dog,
You see, she's trying to overcome. She's reading right from B.F. Skinner's book, but she's still trying to quantify her own knowledge. She has no knowledge. She's trying to go against what Skinner is saying. And when she understands what Skinner is saying, dog training goes in the garbage. Okay? That's all dog trainers try to do today. You got Zach George, you got Taylor Wachowski. Stop the behavior, shut down behavior. When you are trying to shut down behaviors, you're trying to remove a behavior from an animal's repertoire, and that's all punishment. I don't know why that is so hard to understand.
is seeing something in the environment that makes them so fight or flight. That is a punishment to the dog. That is just the way I see it. But I'm not.
Something in the environment is punishing the dog, but yet trainers are telling you to punish the dog more, to layer on the punishment, when you don't understand what's negative in the environment that's causing the behaviors in the first place. When the dog goes fight or flight, stop. Be calm. Look around the environment. Is it another dog that the dog is reacting to? Is it a human being? Is it something that's ambient to you? Figure out what the dog is being not considering negative. What is driving the behaviors? What is causing the dog to go into fight or flight mode? But yet, you got people like Taylor Wachowski and other dog trainers telling you to stand in the way of that negative reinforcement that's punishing the dog in the environment, and they're telling you to exact reward and punishment on a dog that's already being punished by something in the environment. That's what you're not understanding. You're layering on punishment, and by standing there and choking out the dog or stopping the dog from having that positive reinforcement is pure punishment. The positive reinforcement is the fight or flight response. That's what you don't get. This is what you try to deny because it doesn't make you money.
That dog. I can't say what that dog, if that dog knew English, what that dog would say. if they really feel if it's that or not. You might use negative reinforcement to keep the dog in that situation.
And using negative reinforcement in any condition is called punishment. The application of negative reinforcement is called punishment. The environment has all kinds of negative reinforcements, things that we're scared of. Okay? Some people are scared of spiders. I love spiders. When person that's scared of spiders sees a spider, it's a negative reinforcement that generates the behavior of fight and flight. This is the reason why you fight and flee from spiders, because you're scared of them. I have no fear of spiders. I have a more of a fight response. I go move forward on the spider. I'm not scared of spiders. Why are you scared of spiders? But nobody's asking the question why. And that's the philosophy behind psychology. Why do spiders generate a negative response in you, but yet a positive response in me? It's conditioned.
In order to flood them so that way they no longer react to that stimuli anymore.
You see, this is where it comes into play. Flooding the dog. The dog is already being flooded by something in the environment, but you're going to flood the dog more by trying to stand between that thing and the dog and trying to inflict artificial negative and positive. That's the reality. The dog never gets a chance to learn to rationalize, and rationalization is a skill that needs to be given back to the dog. Again, if you have a child that's in the face of fear, it would stand there shoving food into your child's face help? No. Show me in any capacity how that's going to work on a human child. And that's exactly what radical behaviorism does. It tells you to replace your dog with a human child, because that's what Skinner was doing in the lab. He was replacing human beings with dogs and pigeons and rats and learning all about human behavior from applying negative reinforcements in a lab. In a laboratory environment, there are no natural negative reinforcements. If you take a generationally raised lab rat and put it in a cage with an escape route, and then put a hungry cat in the cage, would the would the rat know to run away, or would it be a meal? That's the reality. We learn through negative reinforcements in the environment. It's negative reinforcements in the environment. The things that make us aware, they keep us safe. Negative reinforcement is actually a positive. Positive reinforcement can be a huge negative. That's what Taylor doesn't understand. There's a dark side. It's yin and yang. You cannot have a positive without a negative. There's always a positive and negative for every possible positive. Okay? And if you don't understand that, walking down the street is a positive consequence. If you don't understand that, trip and fall flat in your face. What does it become? A negative consequence. It's negative and positive reinforcements. That's what it is.
But now we're just getting into all sorts of fancy terms and fancy words and what.
Fancy terms and fancy words. You're starting to sound like Cabral. I don't like big words. You know, big words are confusing. You're reading directly from B.F. Skinner's book, the very man that you blame for the quadrants of dog training, and you're struggling to define it in your own terms, and you cannot do it. That's the reality. You're exposing yourself at the moment, lady, and you don't realize it. You're only playing into me. You're making me win because you're showing your ignorance. You're showing your lack of knowledge.
But not.
Aggression and reactivity. But yet, people like Taylor are telling you point blank to interfere in the dog's ability to rationalize. And rationalization is a very important skill. When human beings...
I help the dog to rationalize. I help the dog. I'm not...
Rationalization is not something to help an animal with. It's a skill that they have to learn on their own. That's the reality. Trainers are trying to teach everything. That's the problem. They want to teach the dog everything. We have human beings. Most human beings today, I'm sorry, but they're not capable of raising another human being to be a functional adult anymore. But yet they're using the same principles to try to raise a dog. I am a human being. I'm a human animal. I cannot teach a dog how to be a dog. That's the reality. But yet these trainers believe that they can teach a dog how to be a dog. You cannot. You are different species. A monkey can only teach a human being how to be a monkey. That's the reality. And there's been many cases of human beings being raised by other animals. They've been raised by monkeys. They've been raised by wolves. They become the animal that they're raised by. A human being cannot teach a dog to be a dog. I don't care how good you think you are. It's just not possible. You're a different species.
Interfering anything. I mean, you know what? You want to say I'm going to interfere? Yeah, I'm going to interfere. If a dog is freaking...
Yeah, there you go. You're going to interfere. Stop interfering. Just stop and be calm and let the dog get it out of the system. It's the dog that needs to overcome the fear, but they need somebody calm and confident to be around. Taylor, if you're out in the middle of if you're in the middle of a downtown core at nighttime, and all of a sudden you find yourself in a state of fear, what's more attractive? Somebody else is standing beside you fearful, or somebody is standing there calm and confident? They are not scared. Isn't that attractive? That's the most attractive thing you can find when you're in a state of fear, is somebody that's calm and confident and they are not afraid. That's what the dog needs. You're going to be attracted to somebody that's not scared. The dog is going to be attracted to something that's not scared. And that has to be the human at the end of the leash. If the human at the end of the leash is not scared, they're showing confidence, they're not making things a big deal, you give the dog a chance to join you in that state. And I guarantee you, when you start doing that, instead of trying to freaking fight everything, instead of trying to fix everything, let the dog stand there and learn to rationalize through fear. And they're going to come to trust you. This is where trust and respect comes in. But yet Taylor is working oppositely because there's no money in it.
Out and going and alligator rolling on their leash and freaking out and trying to get away and almost slipping their leash because they're trying to get away from something that is fearful to them, I'm going to absolutely interfere and I'm going to move this dog away from the scary stimuli. I'm going to.
You move the dog away from the scary stimuli. What do they learn? That it's still a scary stimuli. That's the reality. Escape is positive reinforcement. Escape from harm. That is positive reinforcement. What is positive reinforcement at its base? It's your desire not to die. It's the things you're going to do to avoid death. You need food, you need water, you need shelter in order to survive. In order for the species to survive, you need sex and procreation. Guess what? That's not happening anymore. So human beings right now, we are a dying species because we're not able to replicate, we're not able to reproduce fast enough to keep the population going. Right now, operant conditioning is such a frickin' mess because people don't understand what operant conditioning is. Operant conditioning has to be looked at through the eyes of the animal, not through the eyes of the trainer. We got trainers trying to see the world through the dog's point of view, and it's not working very well.
Slowly over time I'm going to increase the amount of space between the stimuli and ourselves, and over time slowly decrease.
And yeah, they never get over that fear. Okay? It's no different. If you have a child by the hand and you're scared of spiders, and all of a sudden you see a spider, you take the child and move away from the spider, all you're doing is reinforcing that fear. That's it. How is the child ever supposed to get away and get over fear if you don't just stand there and be calm and give them a reason to do so? It's no different for the dog. That's the reality. If a child is scared of spiders and they're coming to me, I'm going to go over and palm the spider. I'm going to put the spider on my face. You know what? I'm not afraid of it. I'm showing the child that, you know what? A child that trusts me 100% and knows that I wouldn't put him in harm's way. I'm sitting there with this thing that scares him on my face. The choice is on the animal. I'm just being calm. The thing that you're scared of is on my face, is on my body. I'm not scared of it. Why are you? I'm using myself as an example. That's what owners need to do.
That space that we have, decrease that distance that we have from the stimuli, while using positive reinforcement.
While using positive reinforcement, again, positive reinforcement is something that needs to be understood. It's understanding the cause of behaviors. It's not about fixing things. Positive reinforcement is not a tool. It's not something you pull out of a treat bag. Those are inducements, primary inducements. Why is this so hard for Taylor Bukowski to understand that she's not a positive reinforcement trainer? She is a primary inducement trainer, and they're all selling the same pile of bullshit. They've redefined positive reinforcement. They've redefined negative reinforcement. They've redefined operant conditioning to make money. And this is all they're pushing, is making money. It's all about business. Once you understand Skinner, once dog owners sit down and read Skinner, just one book, 35 pages from a book, you will understand that dog trainers are lying to you. And you will understand that Taylor Wilkowski right now is struggling to lie to you. That's the reality.
The dog likes to increase the behavior of them being calm in the same environment as the scary stimuli. That's what I'm going to be doing. So if you have, say, just a trash can with a bag blowing out of it. It's so windy that the bag has been sucked out of the trash can and it's flapping and blowing, and the dog is freaking out, and we're 10 feet away. I might move us 50 feet away. And
why would you move the dog away from something they're scared of? Okay? Again, instead of moving the dog away from something they're scared of, I'm going to ask the dog to stay in place, and I'm going to go meet the thing that it's scared of. I'm not scared of it. I'm going to stand there and hold on to the plastic bag. I actually did that with my ex's dog. It was scared shitless. He'd spent most of his life in the freaking house. Of course it's going to be afraid of everything in the environment. The first thing the dog reacted to was a bag blown in the wind. So you know what? Leave the dog there. Extend the leash. Stretch it out. I'm going to go sit down next to the thing. I'm going to touch the thing. Show the dog point blank that I'm not scared of it. Overcome the fear. Come to trust me. This is how you build trust. The dog needs to learn to trust my judgment. That's the reality, but you're not doing that. You're trying to reward and punish the dog instead. You're going to remove the dog from something it's scared of. When you do that, all you're doing is reinforcing fear. You're reinforcing that that thing is a negative. I'm going to go meet the thing instead, and I'm going to ask the dog point blank, you know what? Overcome the fear. Make the choice. The dog has to make the choice to overcome the fear. It's the same thing as a child. They need to overcome the fear. They need to choose to overcome the fear. But they need somebody calm and confident to show them that it's not something to be scared of. And this is what Taylor's not getting. The dog is not getting a choice. When the dog is with me, they get all the choice. I want the dog to choose to overcome fears. I want the dog to look at me and say, okay, you know what? You're calm. I don't need to freak out. This is what it boils down to. Doing nothing is the biggest skill that you're ever going to learn. But in order to do nothing, you need to recognize that the dog is not broken. The relationship between you and your dog is broken. That's what Taylor doesn't want you to understand. Once you understand that the relationship between you and the dog is broken, you do not need to spend money on a trainer to try to fix that relationship because you are the only one that can.
If we're 50 feet away and the dog is fine and totally under control and they can do sits and downs and all that good stuff and they still see the trash can, I'm going to mark and reward and move parallel to that trash.
So you've reinforced the dog's fear. You haven't actually allowed the dog to overcome fear, but now you're going to reward that fear. Make that make sense to me. You're going to reward that fear. You're telling the dog point blank, good job. Here's a reward for being afraid. Make that make sense, people. And you understand why dog training is not working, why you're pissing good money away after bad. She's telling you to take the thing that the dog is scared of and move away from it, and then reward the dog for being afraid of it. Make it make sense.
Can back and forth. The trash can is over here where my mouse is, and we're over here 50 feet away. We're walking back and forth, and then over time we might get a little bit closer. We might go 40 feet.
And this is why it takes her 2 years to overcome fear. Because she's not focusing on the fear. She's not focusing on the emotion. She's focusing on the behavioral outcome of fear. As cause and effect, ladies and gentlemen, what's causing the dog to be afraid in the first place? They don't care. They're trying to fix the fear. You cannot fix fear. The dog has to overcome fear on their own. But in order for a dog to overcome fear, in order for a child to overcome fear, you need to stand there. You need to learn to stand there, do nothing, shut up, and stop making a big deal out of things. That's how you allow a dog to make it not a big deal.
And do the same thing. And then we can move 30 feet and 20 feet and 10 feet. And over time, when the dog has realized, oh, this bag is not as scary, or if it's less windy, and say we come back the next day and the bag is.
So you're trying to condition the dog to overcome fear. I want the dog to overcome fear because it trusts me. That's the difference. That's the difference with behavioral psychology. Trust is everything. If the dog is not coming to you, they do not trust you. They have no reason to trust you because all you're trying to do is reward and punish their behaviors. They are not being given a reason to trust you. Why would a dog follow you if it doesn't trust you? But yet you want to try to force the dog to follow you. I want the dog to choose to come to me because I'm in a calm state. I want the dog to choose to join me in a calm state because calm is everything. I always ask dog owners, what do you want from your dog? Who gives a shit what the trainer wants from your dog? What do you want? Dog owners are always saying, oh my God, my dog is aggressive. My dog is reactive. How is that same dog when in a calm state? Now you got to ask yourself, if all you want is a calm dog, then we need to focus on getting the dog into a calm state. That's all you need to do. But you're trying to fix things that you cannot fix. They're telling you to fix things that you cannot fix. If all you want is a dog in a calm state, that could be achieved through exercise. That could be achieved through trust. When a dog trusts you, they have no reason to be afraid. They trust you. They trust your judgment. They trust the choices that you make for them. But yet the dog never learns to trust because there's always somebody interfering with that state of calm. The dog never gets to a state of calm. How is that aggressive dog when in a calm state? Funny how they're not showing any bad behaviors. This is what you want. You want a dog in a calm state, but you don't understand how to get the dog into a calm state. And Taylor doesn't want you to understand to get the dog into a calm state. She's telling you to pull the dog away. Take the dog away from the things it's afraid of. And they never overcome the fears. Reward and punish the dog. You're telling the dog point blank, here's a reward for being scared. Make it make sense.
Has been fixed. Then I'm going to slowly walk us over to the trash can, desensitize them around it, let them see, drops.
Desensitize. Yes, you're trying to desensitize a dog from being scared. It doesn't work that way. The dog is still not making a choice. The owner's making the choice.
Some treats around it, tap it with my hand, desensitize them, and show them that the trash can is not scary, and I might move the bag a little bit. That's what I would do in an area where the dog might have previously seen it as a punishment if I would have forced them to stay there. Or if I had negatively reinforced them to stay there, they would still see it as a.
It's not about negatively reinforcing them. It's about holding them in place. At some point, the dog needs to be held in place. You know what? They need to be given the time to rationalize through the fear, to overcome the fear. Okay? Let them bark it out. Let them rage it out. Just stand there and be calm. And at some point, they're going to look at you going, how come you're not freaking out with me? That's the reality. But most times, owners are making a big deal out of everything. You're being told to make a big deal out of everything. If a dog is scared of something on a leash, you're being told to make a big deal out of it. You will never allow a dog to overcome fear by you making a big deal out of it. Stop making a big deal out of it. Take the big deal out of it. Just stand there and be calm. Do nothing. That's it. You will be amazed. Nothing else has worked so far. Try it. Keep repeating it. Every time your dog goes crazy, every time your dog starts reacting to something, just stop. If you're in a controlled environment and there's nothing bad going to happen, just stop and be calm. Give the dog a chance to rationalize. Give the dog a chance to get through it. Once they understand that nothing negative is happening, that's when things start to change. That's when your dog starts to trust you. But the problem is, you got trainers out there telling them you don't go trusting the dog too much. If you can't trust your dog, guess what? Your dog can't trust you. Give your dog a reason to trust you. Why is your dog not following you? Because they don't trust you. They have no reason to trust you.
Punishment, even though I'm using something negative like a prong collar to keep them there, to reinforce the behavior that they stay sitting there in front of the scary bag versus using positive reinforcement and interfering with the fearful behavior of the dog and desensitizing them.
Listen to what she just said there. Versus using positive reinforcement. Again, the dog is in positive reinforcement. When the dog is raging and barking at something, it's in a state of positive reinforcement. That is the dog's positive reinforcement. They're trying to remove a negative. Something in the environment is a negative. But yet you're trying to use reward and punishment on something that you don't understand. Instead of standing there and understanding what the dog is scared of and why the dog is scared, you're trying to fix the dog is not broken. Things need something new in the environment. Guess what? If you're not sure of it, you're going to go reactive. Your cortisol and adrenaline levels just went up, putting you on a precipice of fight and flight. Now you need to ask yourself, you need to figure out, you need time to figure out, is this thing worthy of being afraid or not? Is this thing worthy of being reactive to?
And that's just the thing, is that most people don't give their dog that time to realize, hey, should I be afraid of this thing or not?
But she just admitted that she's taking the dog away from the thing they're scared of, and she's rewarding the dog for being scared. But then she wants to condition the dog to trust her. No, it doesn't work that way. Okay? Every time you remove the thresholds off a dog, when I work with dogs, when I take a dog for a walk, I've already earned trust. This is the reason for spending an hour or two in the backyard, is to earn trust. I want to develop that relationship. The dog doesn't associate me with anything. The dog doesn't know me from a hole in the ground. I'm not associated with reward and punishment. That's the reality. I don't want to be associated with reward and punishment. I want the dog to choose to calm down, because right now they're in an active state. That's the reason why I am a negative reinforcement that's generating the behaviors of fight and flight when I walk into a backyard. All I want the dog to do is calm down and recognize, you know what, nothing bad is happening. This is how you build trust. When the dog goes calm, then I want the dog to choose to come and meet me. Okay? Dog trainers do not work this way because most of them are scared of dogs. I've taken on the worst cases, the dogs that were heading for euthanasia, and all I'm doing is asking them to trust me, asking them to respect me. I'm not pushing myself on the dog. I'm asking the dog to get it out of their system, come to calm down. Because a dog that's in a calm state can think. A dog that's in a hyper state cannot think.
I do. I personally give my dog as much time as they want on any given time to see, is this scary plastic bag in this trash can really something scary? And that's what I do. I take time and make sure to make the progress that we can, go up to the scary bag and stand next to it while it's flapping in the wind right behind us.
But again, instead of trying to expect the dog to overcome fear, take the initiative. Let the dog sit there. Use an extendable leash. This is why I use a 20 to 30 foot extendable leash. You know what? The dog can stay there. You can stand there and be scared, or come and choose to join me, because I'm going to go meet the thing that you're scared of. I'm going to show you that I'm not scared of it. You know what? At that point, the onus is on the animal. You can stay there scared, or you can choose to go calm and join me in a state of calm. I'm not making it a big deal. Come over, take the time on your time, and come investigate it. I'm not rewarding and punishing the dog. I'm asking the dog to rationalize through fear. That's all I'm doing. And it works so much better than rewarding and punishing. Okay?
I take that as a challenge that, hey, you're afraid of this dog? Okay, let's work on this. Let's help you see that this is not scary, and it might.
You see, she's trying to help the dog not see that it's scary. The reality is you cannot do that. The dog needs to overcome it on their own. A child needs to learn to overcome it on its own. And this is the whole point of radical behaviorism. Skinner would tell you to replace dog with human child and ask you what you would do different. You wouldn't stand there and shove food in the face of a scared child. You wouldn't be pronging a scared child. You wouldn't be shocking a scared child. You would understand what they are scared of and let them have the time to rationalize through that fear while you stand there calmly and let them join you in that state of calm. They're going to come to a point where they realize, you know what? I don't need to fight or flight. I can throw it in a not a big deal bucket. This is called indifference. You can become, in the face of a negative reinforcement, you got three choices and only three choices. You can fight, you can flight, or you can become indifferent. And all three are a positive reinforcement. Okay?
Might take a little bit of time. It might take several days. It might take a week.
Yeah, it might take several days. It might take a week. And this is where the money comes in. When you stand there and let your dog figure it out, you're not spending money on a trainer. They want to take the time. They want to take the hours that it takes to condition a dog to overcome fear. And it never fully works because all you're doing is trying to suppress the fear instead of letting the dog get it out of the system.
Of 5 or 10 minute intervals working, or you can take all day if you want to work all day and you're going to say, by George, we're going to get this dog used to this bag and all day long.
You're trying to get the dog used to this bag because you're using inducements and compulsions. That's the reality. You're not using positive reinforcement, you're using primary inducements. You're rewarding the dog through punishment. That's the reality. When you take a dog and keep it in a fear state, the dog never overcomes the fear, and you're rewarding that dog or punishing the dog for being afraid. That's what you're doing. And people are wondering why it takes weeks and years and months to fix a dog. Because you're working ass backwards. You're all about the money and not about the dog.
And if it takes 8 hours to do it, then that's what we're going to do. By then the dog would be totally flooded and totally overstimulated and overwhelmed, that they would probably just wouldn't care by that time. Because they would be in fight or flight for so long that they would just totally drain their body.
If it is, then you're going to run away. If it isn't, then you're going to make it not a big deal. And once something is made not a big deal, that's called socialization. Let's carry on.
So define that word for me, Taylor. Define what socialization is from your own point of view. I got the funniest feeling I already know what you define socialization is. Socialization is about being calm in everything in the environment. Nothing is a big deal. That's what socialization is. But you're going to define it as something else, isn't it?
Balance training. Balance trainers are best known for use in all four quadrants of operant conditioning. There is no quadrants of operant conditioning because operant conditioning is not what you define it as. Okay?
Okay. So again, where is he getting his information from? B.F.
You just read the definition from B.F Skinner's book about behaviorism on what operant conditioning is, but yet you still try to deny it. You're sitting here struggling to deny what B.F Skinner himself said because it's not good for your wallet. That's the reality. You're all about making money, not about a message.
Skinner himself has been quoted of saying the four quadrants.
By whom? You show me in anywhere in Skinner's works, and again, tell me you haven't read Skinner without telling me you haven't read Skinner. There's nowhere in Skinner's books where he mentions negative and positive punishment. So where did the quadrants of dog training come from, Taylor? Be honest with yourself. Stop fucking lying to people. If Skinner himself openly opposed punishment, then why are you consistently blaming Skinner for the punishment quadrants? Because it wasn't Skinner. It's Conrad Most, inducements and compulsive inducements. That's your real quadrants of dog training. You are not a positive reinforcement trainer. You can't even define the word positive reinforcement. You are a primary inducement trainer. And if trainers would finally recognize that what they are doing is primary inducement training, I could shut up. I would leave people alone. That's the reality. But nobody wants to read the fucking books to actually show themselves what the truth is.
I am just so confused.
Yeah, you're confused. Of course you're confused. You have no idea what you're talking about because you haven't read any psychology, but yet you're sitting here trying to come off as the expert. I'm not an expert in anything. I've been following psychology. I've been watching psychology for the last 30 odd years. But yet you do not want to understand. There's a reason why you do not want to understand. There's a reason why you're confused. Because when you use B.F Skinner appropriately, there is no money to be made. It's not convenient to your wallet. Once you sit down, read, and understand what B.F. Skinner was saying, you throw your own career in the garbage. Skinner is anti-dog training. Skinner is not a dog trainer. He was not training animals in his lab.
That's the reality. This is the bullshit that you keep pushing to try to make money. And it's all an extortion ring. You're lying to people to make money, and that's by definition extortion.
Unless somebody can help me with my confusion, and that's not Robert.
I'm trying to help you with your confusion. Sit down and read an actual book. You keep saying that you will read a book from Skinner, which means you have never read a fucking book from Skinner. You have never read a book from Carl Jung. You've never read a book from Freud, but here you are trying to prove them all wrong. Taylor Wilkowski is right, and everybody else is wrong, and you're struggling. You're making an asshole of yourself, and I love to watch it, because that's all you can do. You do not have the knowledge. You do not have anything to come back at me with. You're still pushing the same fucking narrative.
Hines, then please do. I trust my viewers, who are much smarter than I am.
Your viewers who are much smarter than you are, they haven't read the books either. They have no interest in reading the books. This is the problem. You got ignorance pushing ignorance and ignorance following ignorance. You haven't read the books, and you're supposed to be the fucking trainer. But yet you've got people following you when you clearly couldn't find your own ass with a map, and you're telling people point blank you're so confused. I get why you're confused, Taylor. Sit down and read a book. I'll even give you the links to the books. But you don't want to because they are not good for your wallet. That's the reality. Once you understand what B.F Skinner was pushing, dog training itself goes in the fucking garbage, and you cannot admit that. That's the problem.
And I hope not to be spreading any misinformation out there if I am.
That's all you're doing is spreading misinformation. The stuff on your website does not correlate with B.F Skinner. You're telling people on your website that this is B.F Skinner. But I'm showing you what B.F Skinner is. I'm showing you how Skinner defines operant conditioning. Positive reinforcement, negative reinforcement, and even then, you do not want to understand it. You're pushing ignorance, and you're making money off of ignorance. This is called extortion. That's all it is. And once you understand, once you fess up to what Skinner was actually saying, then you throw your own career in the garbage. And that's not convenient to your wallet, because you can't make money off it.
And I'm happy to change it and fix it. But
no, you're not happy to change it and fix it. If you were happy to change it and fix it, you would actually sit down and read some books. Sit down and read Carl Jung. Sit down and read B.F. Skinner. Just one book, 35 pages from one book. The summation of about behaviorism. You read those 35 pages and you come back and you talk to me. Grow a set of balls, put your face on camera, and talk to me about it. You won't dare because you will not survive. That's the reality. You cannot overcome truth with ignorance.
Here I gave the quote of what it is. Balanced trainers are best known for their use of all four quadrants of operant conditioning.
Again, what is operant conditioning? You just read the definition of operant conditioning. Operant conditioning is not a tool. It's about survival of the fittest. But yet you still deny it. There's a reason why you have to deny it, because you want to make money off of lies and extortion for dog owners. That's the reality, but you cannot even admit that. You're admitting point blank that you've never read Skinner, you're admitting point blank you've never read Jung, you've never read Freud, you've never read any psychology. But you're still pushing the same bullshit narrative that you learned in school. You're learning all about B.F. Skinner. But yet you turn around in the face of B.F. Skinner, quotes from his actual books, and you're still lying to people. You're still struggling to understand it. You do not have any understanding, but yet you're trying to give your understanding, your own ignorance to people.
Positive reinforcement, negative reinforcement, positive punishment, and negative punishment.
Again, show me in any of Skinner's books where he mentioned the words negative or positive punishment. They do not exist. But yet you try to blame Skinner for creating the quadrants of dog training when he had nothing to do with it. Skinner was not a dog trainer. He was all about behaviors. You do not even understand what a behavior is. You cannot define behaviors. There's no need for you to define behaviors, because all you're focusing on is the objective, not the subjective. Psychology is all about subjective. That's what you don't realize. And all you're pushing is objective, Taylor. This is the reality. You're struggling to explain it all from your own narrative, and you cannot.
Again, I don't know what this guy's talking about.
Exactly. You don't know what this guy's talking about because you haven't read a fucking book. That's the reality. You're trying to bully everybody into believing what you believe, what you've been taught. And you've learned all about Skinner. But what you learned about Skinner is completely wrong. What you learned about Skinner is a way to make money. You're pushing Conrad Most and Edward Thorndike, but you're blaming B.F. Skinner because you've never read these books and you don't know the difference. This is pure ignorance, and you're making money off of ignorance.
I really don't.
quadrants of dog training are primary inducement, secondary inducements, primary inducive compulsions, and secondary inducive compulsions. Now go.
So there's four there. There's four quadrants there. They just name them differently. They name them something that's a little bit more easily
No,
recognizable, more easy for someone to understand.
no, they redefined it. And again, I can prove it. I'll pull the blog off and put it in the comments section on where all this happened. Mary Birch, John S. Bailey, they turned around and they literally admitted to changing the quadrants of dog training under Conrad Most to reflect Skinner. But this is not good for you, is it? This is not good for your wallet. I'm going to post a blog and people can read it for themselves. Again, you're mentioning all these trainers in the past. When you get into the actual reality of the dolphin trainers, they were actually teaching, the dolphins were actually teaching the human beings to get free fish. That's the reality. It wasn't working, but yet you're still pushing the same ignorance.
Go get on Google and look up the words inducement and compulsion. That explains dog training. There is no such thing as a positive reinforcement trainer. This is a lie, okay?
Then why are thousands upon thousands of people calling themselves positive reinforcement trainer?
Because they're all full of shit, and none of them have actually read a book from Skinner. Again, I've talked to thousands of dog trainers, and I asked them point blank, have you ever actually read a book from Skinner? No, they always admit that they've read all about Skinner. They've never actually read a book from Skinner, and you are no different in that capacity. Sit down and read Skinner. I dare you. Sit down and read Skinner, and then come back and talk to me about what Skinner was saying. And get on video. Put your face on video and prove me wrong. If you're so sure about what you're pushing, you should have no problems at all about getting online and talking to me about it face to face, but you will not do. You will not do it because you're too scared to. Because you will lose your entire career. That's the reality.
If that is a lie, whether you call it conducive or inducive or gobbledygook or
Again, she hasn't read Conrad Most. I can give her the book links. I've offered her book links. I've offered the book links to Skinner, to Carl Jung, whatever have you, but she has no interest. These people will not even take 10 seconds to open the dictionary to understand what a behavior is. They cannot define the words. They don't need to define the words because all you're doing is focusing on objective. The behaviors are objective to trainers like her. We need to start focusing on subjective. And subjective is, why is the dog acting out in the first place? If you don't understand why something is happening in the first place, you never get to fix it. That's the reality.
meat pie on a Saturday afternoon. I don't care what you call it.
Of course you don't care what you call it. You're so gung-ho on what you learn in school, but you don't want to defy what you learn in school by actually sitting down and reading the book of the man you fucking blame for all this crap. You don't want to. It's not convenient to you. And this is the problem with dog training. This is what dog owners need to wake up to. If dog owners would sit down and read 35-page summation of B.F. Skinner's book about behaviorism, you would understand that dog trainers are lying to you. But the problem is human pride gets in the way. You don't want to be, you can't admit that you've been fooled by dog training. That's the reality.
What I do is I use positive reinforcement. I use something the dog likes to increase a behavior. That is.
You're assuming that that's what the dog wants. What do you think the dog really wants? That's the question. What do you think the dog really wants? What does the owner want from the dog? Who gives a shit what the trainer wants? When I talk to dog owners, I ask them always point blank, what do you want from the dog? What do you want from your dog? It's your dog, it's not my dog. What do you want? Number one answer I get from my dog owners, I want a calm dog. But dog trainers tell you to do everything against the dog being calm. Most dogs that I work with have never experienced a calm state. And when you never experience a calm state, you can never learn. That's the reality.
What it is. That is what I do.
That's what everybody does because it makes money. You're trying to apply positive reinforcement without the understanding of what positive reinforcement is. What you're teaching as positive reinforcement is a misrepresentation of positive reinforcement, and it's that misrepresentation of positive reinforcement that makes you money.
We're going to get into positive punishment and negative punishment. Again, according to Taylor, it's all B.F. Skinner. B.F. Skinner published 21 books, I think, and over 180 papers in his lifetime, through his whole career. Not once have I ever heard the terms positive punishment or negative punishment.
Okay. The 4 quadrants of B.F. Skinner refer to the 4 quadrants of operant conditioning. Positive
And again, she's going to AI. And AI is going to feed the bullshit narrative. Again, instead of going to AI to try to get a bullshit narrative, sit down and actually read a book from B.F. Skinner, but it's not warranted. She will not do it because she's going to be proving to herself that she's completely wrong. She's listening to dog trainers define what operant conditioning is, and they're all pushing the same garbage, but yet she went through and she actually read B.F. Skinner's definition of operant conditioning, which doesn't coincide with what she's pushing as operant conditioning. It's not good for the wallet.
Reinforcement, negative reinforcement, positive punishment, and negative punishment.
Again, Taylor, show me in any of Skinner's books, which you clearly have not read, you show me anywhere where negative negative punishment and positive punishment were mentioned. Again, B.F. Skinner openly opposed the use of punishment in every which way because it's not effective. Punishment only serves to create fear. Okay? It serves to create weakness. So where in any of Skinner's books did he mention the terms negative and positive punishment? You cannot find it, but yet you keep sitting there saying that B.F. Skinner created the quadrants of dog training when the man openly opposed punishment. That's not convenient to your wallet, is it?
Right here, this is AI talking about the 4 quadrants of B.F. Skinner. The 4 quadrants of B.F. Skinner. And it talks you to it tells
Again, she's going to AI. Why doesn't she go to B.F. Skinner? She's actually reading Skinner in this presentation she's doing. And she's trying to deny what Skinner is saying to encompass the bullshit narrative definition of operant conditioning because it makes money. That's the reality. When dog owners understand B.F. Skinner and what B.F. Skinner was actually teaching, you will never hire a trainer ever again. This is the reason why these trainers are sitting there lying to you, trying to bullshit you. Understand Skinner. Sit down and read 35 pages. I will put the book link in the comments along with the blog explaining where all this bullshit came from. People, understand Skinner. Stop listening to the bullshit narrative of it.
you how it works. Tells you all how Skinner's quadrants.
It's funny how dog trainers are all pushing the same garbage, but yet she's sitting here reading quotes from B.F. Skinner and still denying B.F. Skinner to replace it with the bullshit definition. What trainers call operant conditioning is a method of behavioral modification using reward and punishment. That is not Skinner. It's misrepresentation of what operant conditioning is. According to Taylor, operant conditioning is dog training, which is the quadrants of dog training, and it is absolutely incorrect. And here she is struggling to try to explain what operant conditioning is when she clearly doesn't know.
Series 1. So don't be telling me that Skinner did not come up with the 4 quadrants. He did. We just renamed it something else.
And I'm going to prove to you how it was renamed. Mary Birch, John S. Bailey, they wrote an essay back in 1990 that proves that you are wrong. That proves that they turned around and they used Conrad Most training dogs to represent applied behavior analysis, and how they used Conrad Most to shape B.F. Skinner's descriptions.
Or he renamed it something else. You're just talking gibberish. I've gone far enough on this video. I'm not going to go. I mean, we're just going to be going in circles. He's just going to be telling me I'm wrong and this and that and this and that and blah, 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 blah. If you want to check out the website, if you want to check out the website, it's Canine Tay.
Again, she's going to push her website with bullshit definitions of positive and negative reinforcement and operant conditioning instead of telling you point blank to sit down and read B.F. Skinner. Why is she telling you to read her own website instead of actually going to the source of B.F. Skinner? Stop and think about that.
.com.
I'm telling you, I'm asking you to read a book from B.F. Skinner, the man that she blames for all this bullshit. But she's not telling you to read a book from Skinner. She's telling you to listen to me. What she's telling you is wrong. There's a reason for it, and once you understand that reason for it, it's all about making money. When you understand Skinner, when you're like me and you're pushing Skinner, there is no money to be made because you realize that you can't train a dog to behave.
Right there. You can tell me if I'm wrong. You can tell me if I'm right. Anybody else who watches the video, feel free to let me know if I am incorrect on anything. I'm always happy to change my point of view and change.
You clearly are not willing to change your point of view. You're clearly not willing to sit down and read B.F. Skinner, Taylor. And that's unfortunate for the dog, and it's unfortunate for dog owners, because again, all dog training is nothing more than an extortion ring. You need to keep dog owners afraid. Oh, listen to me, don't listen to Skinner, don't read a book. You're using that on dog owners. Keep focused on you. Don't look over there because you're going to find the truth over there. And if people will go to the actual source and actually sit down and read B.F. Skinner, they're going to realize that Taylor Wilkowski is fucking lying to them.
Anything that I have stated that is incorrect, if you can show me your sources. But yeah, otherwise,
You're blaming B.F. Skinner for all his garbage, but yet you refuse to read him. And that's what I find truly interesting. That is called ignorance. That is called extortion, Taylor. That's the reality. You do not want to read Skinner. You're not telling your followers to read Skinner. You're telling your followers to listen to you instead. And they're going down a dark and dirty path to transactional relationships, which leads to trauma bonding, which leads to pretty much death of the dog at some point.
somebody asked me to look at this video. I did, and I think it's just a bunch of talking back and forth. So thanks for watching, everybody.
Exactly. You're just going to brush it all off. Brush off any signs. Listen to Taylor. Don't listen to B.F. Skinner. I'm not asking people to listen to me. I'm asking people to sit down and read a book. Why isn't Taylor Wilkowski telling you to sit down and read a book to get the true source of the information? Why is she saying, listen to me instead? There's a reason for it. And once you understand the reason for it, you'll never spend money on a dog trainer again.
I hope you all are doing well. Say hello to your little critters. Say hello for me. Give them some kind of love and they appreciate.
End the video. Have a good day. If you got any questions, feel free. I will respond to any and all questions.